Hey guys, what is up? It is me, Pagey, here once again with another video on The Flash Season 5, and this is going to be my review for Episode 6 of this season, otherwise entitled The Icicle Cometh, and oh boy, did he. But of course, before we get into the rest of the video, if you've not watched the episode, go watch it, then come back to this video later on, because why would you want to get yourself spoiled? So yeah, go do that. But if you have watched the episode and are continuing on with this video, be sure to drop a like on the video, especially if you enjoyed this episode. I did. And obviously I'll get into why. But yeah, if you enjoyed the episode, be sure to drop a like on it to show your support. Let me know in the comment section down below your various opinions on this episode. What'd you like? What didn't you like? Just give me your overall opinions down there in the comments. And of course, if you are new to the channel, make sure to subscribe. So last episode, we obviously had like the side story with Caitlin, Cisco, Sherlock, and Ralph doing some investigation into basically the lead up to this episode, like finding stuff out about Caitlin's father, connecting the dots from stuff that Caitlin already had, and then finding out some other stuff, mainly about, Killer Frost's origins and the location of where her father might be. So that's really what leads into this episode. And then obviously we did see Nora and her mother, reconnect, and that's basically like a short side story in this episode as well. But we start off this episode in an unexpected way. I wasn't really expecting this to be how the episode started, but I guess it had to start this way just to allow other things to happen. But we saw Cicada take down another meta who had like sword hands, which I thought was really cool. It was like almost like Terminator-esque. It was pretty cool. I did enjoy that. I thought it actually looked really good, like a sword hands. But we did notice that his dagger, basically like went off like an alert system, like just glowed one like beep beep beep, almost like a metal detector when that metahuman walked past. So I wonder if Cicada's just like hanging out in public areas. I guess that's what he's doing with his downtime, or just all of his time. But yeah, so that's what happened. I thought it was a pretty cool scene. And obviously he gets injured, which basically leads on to some other stuff with him throughout this episode, where he's going to hospital, trying to get drugs and stuff like that. But we do find out that he doesn't want to be healed for that scar and stuff, and all these injuries he's got, because it's actually making him stronger. So yeah, but I just thought I'd get over the Cicada stuff pretty early. But speaking of Cicada, Flash Riders, are you watching my videos? Because they had a dig at me in this episode. No, obviously not. They didn't say Paige is an asshole. They didn't say that, but they did have a dig at me when Sherlock said Cicada, like the way I say it, Cicada, and then Cisco corrected him and said Cicada. Oi, calm down. People in Australia pronounce it Cicada. Not everywhere in Australia, but where I was born and where I live, and all my friends and everyone in my family I've asked, it is pronounced Cicada where we're from. So get out of here with your cicada prejudice, because I'm going to keep pronouncing it the way I want. Even the show can't stop me from saying it. Yes, I'm a bit triggered there, but I wasn't expecting it. We do find out that Caitlin's father was the last person to enter this Tannhauser Black Ops site, and he entered it roughly around a week after he died. So it wasn't like he was reported dead, So he wasn't, he didn't go there early and then he was reported dead there. He was reported dead then a week after he entered this Black Ops site. Obviously the information and stuff is classified, so it wouldn't be public knowledge that he just walked into this area. But this obviously leads us to going there with Caitlin, Cisco, and Barry. That we had the original Team Flash action. It felt like a season 1 episode almost, this story arc. So they go there. We're going to the North Pole, so it's incredibly cold. I did like Cisco's little weekend reference. I was wondering what he said. He goes, "I feel like the weekend." And I was like, what's he talking about? It's like, oh, I can't feel my face when I'm with you, that Weekend song. So obviously the cold can't feel your face. So that was the little reference there, if anyone was confused what Cisco meant there. But we do get the nice scene with Caitlin reuniting with her father, which I thought was nice. It was, pretty rushed in the episode, I guess. But we'll talk about maybe how this storyline should have been done at the end of this video or later on in the video. But it was a good scene, I guess, to see them reunite. But we do find out that when Thomas was going through all of his stuff when he got to this base, he was keeping in contact with people in the outside world, and a couple of them were Louise Lincoln, who was a version of Killer Frost. Not the first one. I think the first one was actually just called like Crystal Frost, which made sense into Killer Frost. But Louise Lincoln was, I think she's probably one of the most well-known Killer Frosts, outside of Caitlin Snow, obviously, but yeah, so Louise Lincoln was one. Victor Freeze, otherwise known as Mr. Freeze, the Batman villain, was name dropped. And then obviously our good old friend Harrison Wells also. So it's another Gotham reference, another like Batman universe reference that they've chucked into an episode. They're really steaming up those lately, leading into the Elseworlds crossover. But we do see early on that Cisco definitely has some suspicions about Caitlin's father, and it mainly has to do with just some holes in his story. Like, overall, like, if that's just a general synopsis of your story, it's plausible and passable, but however, there is just holes there where he's not explaining exactly what went on. And especially, like, when someone hasn't, you're trying to explain your disappearance and why you hid from the world, you think you get more information so you can understand completely why Cisco is a bit skeptical and just suspicious of this whole situation. But this leads on to Caitlin actually finding out that that her father basically has the same issues that she has, where essentially they go out for a walk and he gets a bit emotional, whether it's happy, sad, all of that, and he starts to pass out, and obviously the ice on his arm starts to, make itself known. And obviously this is very similar to Killer Frost. Obviously Killer Frost would come out when she was super angry or scared or anything like that, or felt a lot of fear. So it's very similar in regards to that. And obviously this leads on to Caitlin finding out that she was actually experimented on when she was younger because she had the same sort of gene and stuff connected to, whatever they called it, connected to ALS, or the possibility of ALS developing. So that's why she was experimented on, and basically she's got the same issues as her father. Now, this is probably the first question mark maybe in the episode. You'd think Caitlin would maybe be a bit more like, not extremely angry, but a bit like, maybe a bit concerned, or maybe just a bit annoyed. Maybe that's probably the only issue you could have in regards to this situation. It was probably the first part in the episode. I was like, maybe that's a bit of a, they've gone over that fairly quickly. But once again, that ties into maybe something later on that we'll talk about later on. But obviously, because Cisco is suspicious, we do see Caitlin and Barry not really trusting Cisco's opinion after he does have a go and sort of goes like, oh, you're lying to us and all of this to Caitlin's father. Now, personally, I think maybe Cisco went overboard by not trying to drag Caitlin out to the side by herself and just trying to have like a nice word. Instead, he had to make the big drama. But then also, Caitlin didn't believe Cisco at all. So there's probably errors on both sides there. So I guess that obviously just was to have a dramatic scene and then also have like a resolution later on. But I think that could have been handled maybe a bit better. But once again, I think it might have come down to an issue that we'll once again talk about in a second. But we do see Icicle exposed. Caitlin's father is exposed. Caitlin realizes that the serum is not really for the human side to be sort of fixed up and all of that, and basically how make her father how she is. It's for the alter ego, that Icicle side, to take full-on control. And obviously we can't see him take that serum because he had to wait till he was at absolute zero, which was that whole thing that was going on throughout the episode, like the DOD and all of that, to get to absolute zero. That was the whole plan that he had this whole episode. So it was pretty, it was thought through pretty well, to be completely honest. And but this episode had some messy parts, but I think towards the end, it really wraps up well. And it sort of like erases any maybe massive issues you could have with the storyline for this episode. Now the DOD scene is actually pretty cool because because it's all cold. Obviously cold is like a big issue for speedsters, so speed can't be used in this area. So it really negates, the Flash and Nora or XS, who are, fairly overpowered and should be able to win the situation pretty well. Ralph can't stretch. Cisco's basically down and out. So it's only Caitlin there, and we get this really cool scene where, everything's going down, friends are in trouble, and Killer Frost is back, and she looks different. She's got like a new wig. It's like almost like it's like grey bluey at the top, much more frosty, if you want to call it, and then it goes down to basically sort of like a blondie down the bottom. So I think it's a new wig, and I actually, this is my favorite wig that Killer Frost has had, from like Earth 2 Killer Frost to the Killer Frost we've had on Earth 1 for a couple of seasons. This is my favorite wig that she's had. Now, I did see people in my Discord complaining, and I was sort of curious myself. I was like, maybe it's just because she was really emotional that Killer Frost came back. But we do find out that it wasn't Melting Point, or whatever his name was, the meta from last year that DeVoe took. It wasn't him that took Caitlin's powers. It was actually Brainstorm, who was Dominic Lance, who was the first guy, I think, that took over the persona of DeVoe last year. He was the one that actually put that meta power of DeVoe's, put like a mental block on Caitlin and Killer Frost, which basically blocked Caitlin from being able to tap into those Killer Frost powers, even though there was still a sign that they were there. So I thought that was a great explanation. Obviously, it's a great explanation. That's the best way to put it. Because if it was Melting Point, it would make really no sense that Killer Frost powers came back, because they should have been taken. However, the whole Brainstorm thing with the mental blocking is a great explanation. So it did fill up some holes that maybe people were having with either this episode's storyline or just the Killer Frost storyline as a whole. But we do see Icicle or Caitlyn's father get away due to like basically almost like an emotional moment where he went back to Thomas for a bit and caused a bit of a distraction and was able to get away. But this is probably one thing where I think this Killer Frost Icicle storyline should have been 2 episodes, or at least the storyline we see in this episode should have been spread over 2 episodes, or at least last episode's storyline was mixed in with maybe like the first quarter or half of this episode's storyline in regards to that. So last episode, maybe get rid of Ragdoll and put him in another episode, and the main story should have been the first half of this story, and then the Nora and her mother storyline, Nora's issue with her mother, could have been the side story for last episode, and then this episode could have been like the full-on reveal that he's Icicle and all of that. I think it would have been a much cleaner storyline, and they wouldn't have had to rush maybe some drama between Caitlyn, Cisco, and Barry and all of that. That might have been the better way to do it, but I still think this episode was pretty damn solid, even though it maybe was a bit mushed in regards to trying to fit it all in one episode. But we do see Harry's like cerebral inhibitor, or like the mental, whatever they call it, advanced device or something that Caitlyn's going to use to be able to tap into Killer Frost, and we do see them start a nice little conversation there. So we actually knew from set photos like 2 days ago that Killer Frost was back, so we all assumed that she was going to be back this episode. So it wasn't too much of a surprise that she came back, but it was still a cool moment when she did come back. I was like, yes, finally this character is back that really deserves more development and focus, because Killer Frost is one of the cooler parts of the show. In regards to the side stories for this episode, we had Cecile and Ralph, who were actually really good this episode, trying to get basically lots of information on the list of people that were coming through that area, and the FEMA, whatever it was called. Cecile and Ralph really worked together well. Obviously, you can tell that was meant to be a Ralph and Joe scene, but because of Jesse L. Martin's illness, Cecile's actually is basically going to replace Joe on the show. So a lot of interaction you'd see Joe normally have, Cecile's going to jump into that, but I think she was a good swap. And I think just, even like when they're just walking and stuff, because Hartley Sawyer, who plays Ralph, is so tall, and Danielle Nicolette, who plays Cecile, is so short, it's just a really odd pairing, but it works really well. It's almost like twins, like that with Danny DeVito and Arnold Schwarzenegger. It's, yeah, anyway, it worked really well. I was actually a big fan of that part of the episode. A lot of good comedy, especially early on. And then obviously you had the storyline with Sherlock, Nora, and her mother, where essentially they were trying to find the core from the satellite, and it was basically just showing some remending there and a relationship bonding and developing. Not really too much there to dive into. It's pretty self-explanatory from what you saw in the episode. But overall, as I said, this episode, as it was moving along and getting through the motions of the episode, I was a bit concerned. I was like, it's not as clean as I thought it might have been. It was a bit messy. However, by the time we got to the end of the episode and there's certain reveals and certain explanations, it wraps up really, really nice. But I have to take points off because I think certain points were rushed, like maybe the drama between Barry, Cisco, and Caitlyn in regards to the issue with her father. Her father's storyline I didn't mind. I think it was actually pretty well paced, but maybe that issue you got to take some points off. But really solid episode, one of the better episodes for this season. And obviously Icicle does get away, Caitlyn's father does get away, so I'm excited to see when he shows up again and how, like, the level and threat level that he shows up with. So I'm really excited to see that again. And just having Killer Frost back on the show, like, it was a part that was missing from the show. Like, it is a big part of Caitlyn's character. So when you take that away, you know, the character's just missing something. So it's really good to have that back on the show. Or to have that reintroduced into the show in this episode. But thanks for watching, guys. Hopefully you enjoyed the episode. If you did, it'd be awesome if you could drop a like on the video to show your support. Let me know in the comment section down below your various opinions on this episode. What you like, what didn't you like? Just give me your overall opinions down there in the comments. And of course, if you are new to the channel, make sure to subscribe. I'll catch you later, guys. Goodbye.